What's up, everybody? Now you know what time it is again. Of course, it's time for another review, and today I'll be reviewing the movie Last Night in Soho. So let's get to it. I thought Soho met in New York, but actually it means in London, England, in modern times, where a girl from the countryside is an aspiring fashion designer. She's so good. She gets into this real famous affluent school in London, England, and she's like 18 to 19 years old, college age, 18 to 24. And she goes to London, England on her own. She lives with her grandmother because she is an orphan from her mother dying from mental illness of suicide. She goes there, she meets all these other girls and is roommates with these other girls in which they don't really get along. And they talk mess about her. She overhears them in a bathroom and she decides to leave the dorm room because they're partying, sleeping with random guys, and she wants to actually focus on designing clothes and being the next big designer of the world. She moves into this house and rents a room from this lady who owns like a duplex, it looks like. And she starts to have these visions of this young woman who's around the same age as her, but 40 years, even maybe even 50, over 50 years before her time in the 60s. And she's actually visualizing this woman who's a creative person herself, but she's into the performance and creative arts, as in singing and also acting, but mostly singing. And there's an unveiling of who this woman is each time she goes to sleep in this room. And she's even having visuals during the day of this girl and what's actually happening to her, not only in the room, but just in this general area of England. And I have to say, this movie was so much better than I thought it was going to be. I had no expectations. Like I said, I thought when they said Soho, they met in New York, but it was in England. And it worked really well. I mean, a metropolitan city is a metropolitan city after all, correct? Correct. And it was really, really well done. The dream sequences had a lot of drama to it, particularly the first one where there's a zooming out and it's underneath the sheets of the bed when the young girl is falling asleep. And I thought that was really wonderful to look at. It reminded me of Gothica as well. Halle Berry's movie that came out in 2003. By the way, I saw Bruised with Halle Berry and got to see her in person, which was wonderful. I'll do a review on Bruised too later on. And it reminds me so much so because there's a residue. She witnesses a spiritual residue in this room of things happening in the past. And it turns out it has something to do with the owner of the duplex. I'm not going to give too much away. But I actually predicted it the last maybe like 19 and a half minutes, 19:36 seconds of the film. When they did a close up of her, I said, yes. So this movie is a mystery thriller drama, but it's also a fantasy as well. It's also very much a cautionary tale of a young person who is aspiring to be a creative person in a big metropolitan city that comes from humble beginnings in small town, and what can happen to one when they actually do that. It's a story I've seen before, and it's a story that many of us seen before, but I like the way this is done. I really quite enjoy it, and it's in Britain, like I said, it's in London, England. It's amazing though when British people cuss, it sounds so charming. One of the actors who's British in the film, he says "slut, slut" with that beautiful British accent. It really sounds actually rather charming, to be honest with you. But I really enjoyed watching this film. I like the unveiling of the curtain, peek behind the scenes of what can happen and how people really are in show business. And so, with that said, I give this film a solid B plus. Now, please subscribe to my page because I will be uploading at least one review a week.